Okay, if you keep waking up around 2 to 3 a.m. and you can't fall back asleep no matter what you do, everyone online is going to tell you the same things. Just eat a snack before bed, take some magnesium glycinate, try melatonin, glycine, ashwagandha, and I'm going to stop you right there because honestly, that advice is keeping you stuck. While those things might help a tiny, minuscule amount, if this has become a repetitive cycle for you and you've been waking up like this night after night, then in my experience, something else entirely is going on. And that is why none of the supplements that you've tried have made a lasting difference. For most people that I work with who experience this type of sleep maintenance insomnia, what's really going on is you are caught in a high cortisol loop where your brain has now become entrained in this pattern of waking you up like clockwork. The reality is, you can fix this on your own naturally, but by taking a brain based approach that's focused on breaking that brain based pattern that's been keeping your cortisol high at night. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that so you can finally sleep through the night again. To fix this for good, you have to understand the cortisol melatonin relationship. So, cortisol is your body's main stress hormone, and melatonin is your body's sleep hormone. High cortisol suppresses the production of melatonin, which makes perfect sense. If you're stressed out and your brain thinks you're in danger, it makes zero sense to sleep in a dangerous situation. Some people can't even fall asleep to begin with because of high cortisol. And even if you do fall asleep easily, cortisol levels already naturally start to rise around 2 to 3 a.m., which is part of your body's natural rhythm preparing you to wake up in the morning. But if you're under stress and your cortisol is already a little bit elevated, that gentle rise in cortisol that happens around 2 to 3 a.m. turns into a spike, which ends up actually waking you up and then stopping, blocking the melatonin production, which is why you can't fall back asleep. A lot of people get their cortisol levels checked and they're told that everything looks normal, but what's really happening is the timing usually is off. So everything might look fine on paper, but while your body is actually spiking the cortisol in the middle of the night instead of in the early morning, which is what would wake you up, which makes total sense. That's what we want to happen. So the goal isn't to eliminate cortisol, it's to rebalance it so that your body doesn't need to spike it at 3 a.m. and it can actually be gradual and wait until 7 a.m. or whatever time you wake up in the morning. So now you might be thinking, I'll just take some melatonin to solve this issue. But that is actually not addressing why your melatonin is low in the first place. High cortisol is what is blocking the melatonin. So, unless you fix this, the high cortisol spiking, taking melatonin isn't going to do much. And taking melatonin long term can actually cause your brain to produce less melatonin on its own. So, this can go down a slippery slope. So, instead of trying to force sleep, the goal is actually to retrain your brain to feel safe enough for the melatonin levels to rise naturally. Because when your body feels safe, when your brain feels safe, sleep is a no-brainer and it happens automatically. So let's break down some very common causes for why your cortisol would be high related to nighttime and daytime. And while I go through these, I want you to do a gut check with yourself to see what's resonating with you. I'm going to start with the nighttime and then we'll do the daytime ones because the daytime ones are actually more subtle and going to surprise you. So, first of all, nighttime causes for high cortisol. A huge one is maybe past trauma that happened at night where your brain learned to stay on high alert just in case as a protection mechanism. Super common. So if that is you, it's a very normal response and you can also retrain this. The next really common one is stressful times in your life where you were worrying at night, where your brain learns to associate nighttime with problem solving and keeping you awake. Okay. Next, we got the daytime causes of high cortisol. So the daytime stuff is where a huge misinterpretation is going on a brain-based level for pretty much everyone that I've worked with in my coaching. This one shift can literally fix your sleep because it has a ripple effect on how your brain is interpreting everything in your life. So I call this the importance level. What is the importance level? Well, we all have a certain amount of things going on in our life, and they all have a certain level of importance in terms of how big of a priority it is or how big of an impact it has on your life, short term and long term. But here's the thing I want you to understand. Let's say you have a to-do list, just some chores and errands that need to get done at some point. Then you've got work obligations, then you've got family obligations. So you get the point, right? We can add anything here, anything that's going on in your life. And the underlying commonality between all of these is that you'd certainly like to get them all done and for everything to go according to your ideal outcome, work, family, whatever. But none of them are life or death. If these things don't happen, you will not die. If the work meeting is a huge embarrassment, you still don't die. If your mother-in-law gets pissed at you, you still won't die. But because of the high emotional charge that you are attaching to each of these things, your brain is misinterpreting them as a life or death risk. Therefore, it is keeping you in a constant state of hypervigilance, high alertness, high stress, aka high cortisol. And here's the point most people miss. Even getting frustrated that you can't sleep spikes your cortisol. The more pressure you put on yourself to fix your sleep or to fall back asleep faster, the more your brain interprets sleep as dangerous. So a lot of this is about lowering the frustration and the judgment in these moments. Something as simple as a few unchecked tasks on your to-do list can also make your brain think there is danger and something urgent that still needs to be handled. And so it's keeping this cortisol elevated in your body. And until your brain learns that these things aren't life or death, it keeps your cortisol high and it's become a habit in the body. This is the main thing. Even though you consciously understand that these things aren't really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, your brain has done this pattern so many times that it just starts automating the cortisol spiking at 2 to 3 in the morning because it has become a brain-based habit. And that's what we're going to break, okay? The good thing is you do have a lot of control over this. You just haven't been aware of this survival mechanism that has been sabotaging your sleep because it's been a misunderstanding between what is life or death versus what is just a priority. There's a huge difference. And the reason this miscommunication happens is because your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, which the survival mind is a portion of the subconscious, they don't speak the same language. Different language. This is why you can go to years of therapy, talk therapy, and not really see a huge change in your sleep or your stress or your anxiety. Because while you have consciously processed those life events, your subconscious doesn't speak the same language as the conscious mind. Your conscious mind speaks in terms of analyzing, logical stuff, rationalizing. It's more literal, more logical in the way it understands what happens in your life experience. On the other hand, your subconscious does not speak that way. It doesn't get it, which is why when you dream, it's a whole bunch of random things happening that don't seem to make much logical sense. And that's because your dreams are generated by your subconscious, which instead communicates using metaphors, symbols, emotions, and visual imagery. And here's the thing, if you've ever been through a stressful or even a traumatic time in your life, especially one that happened at night, it could also be during the day that then you were worrying about at night after the fact, your subconscious can still be running that old program of keeping you on high alert at night, even long after the danger or the stress or the trauma is over. And that's why people will say, I'm not stressed out anymore. My life is pretty good, but I'm still waking up at 3 a.m. And that's because consciously, you know that you're safe, but your survival brain hasn't gotten the update yet. And this is exactly why I created my free masterclass, where we actually go deeper into this subconscious side of insomnia and break down the strategy for retraining your brain to stop running that high cortisol survival-based pattern at night. You learn the top 3 mistakes that keep you stuck in the insomnia cycle and how to reprogram your mind and body to sleep again totally naturally. So I'll put that link in the description so you can get instant access after this video. Now, bringing this back to the importance level, there are many types of behaviors and let's call them personality traits that are accidentally causing your subconscious to think that normal everyday life things are life or death scenarios. So, some personality traits, and these are all me or used to be my default. So, I'm not hating on anybody here. I'm like talking to my own self. We've got type A personality. So, I want you to start being type A light. Okay. You've got your shit together. You're on top of your life. You prefer things to be a certain way with maybe a touch of perfectionism. These are all good things. This is totally fine. We need people like you in the world, right? But you got to catch yourself when it's gone too far. And you know when it's gone too far. The perfectionist thing is a big one. Your 50% effort or attention to detail is somebody else's 150%. Okay. So you got to recognize that most things are already good enough. So now you got to just start catching yourself. Not everything has to be perfect. It just has to be good enough for now. And for now, I mean for tonight, to stop your brain thinking that everything is a life or death threat if it isn't fixed in this very moment, so that your brain finally lets you sleep. Okay. Another personality trait similar to those, type A tendencies, but I wanted to kind of highlight this one separately, which is being a control freak. Type A and control freak was me. But now I'm not like that as much. She comes out every once in a while, but I can catch it, and she's no longer my default state, my default way of living my life. I've really toned it down. So I know how to do this, and I work with my coaching clients on this a lot as well. So this whole thing of wanting to control every little detail and also controlling how other people do things, that is keeping your cortisol levels high unnecessarily, because control is an illusion. Most of the things you're trying to control aren't in your control at all, but you've been trying to control them anyway because it's a habit. All of these things are habits, and your awareness will break the habit. So this has been keeping the importance level of all of these things in your life at the life or death status. So instead, you need to start training yourself to actually critically consider what actually is in your control. And then that is going to help you release the grip on these other things that were actually the illusion of control. Okay, great. So now let's move on to some behaviors that are a bit more subtle and keeping your brain perceiving this life or death level of importance. Always being in go, go, go mode, trying to get a zillion things done every day. Also, believing that resting is lazy or feeling guilty for not being productive. If you sit down to take a break and a thought pops into your mind that you should be doing something else, that is your subconscious mind speaking to you, letting you know that your subconscious mind doesn't feel safe resting and relaxing. So it gives you a thought to give you the impulse to get up and keep doing things. And that is keeping your body in stress. So this is why it's so important to understand how the subconscious mind communicates. Also, powering through the day without breaks. Even things that appear as healthy can train your body to stay in survival mode, like over exercising. Also, having caffeine before working out is keeping your body in stress. Your body thinks, "Oh, I'm starving and I'm being chased by a lion." So, eat something if you're going to go work out. Things like overbooking your calendar, multitasking, all of these things send the message to your brain that we don't have time to rest. So you got to stay alert and you got to keep going. So your brain has been interpreting your entire lifestyle as a low-grade emergency. And if your brain thinks that you're in danger, it's not going to let you get much sleep because its job is to keep you safe. That is why the second you sit on the couch, your mind starts listing off all the things that you should be doing. And it's why you feel guilty taking a day off work. And it's also why you can't stop thinking about work even when you're on vacation, because your brain has learned that resting is dangerous. And so if it thinks resting is dangerous, it's also going to think that sleeping is dangerous. And so your high cortisol spiking is your body's way of saying, stay alert just in case. Be prepared just in case. So this is where we now work with the subconscious mind to lower the importance level. And we're going to use the language of the subconscious by doing some visualizations that are so simple, and you're going to freaking love them. Okay. So these are my favorites because they're so easy to do. First one, Whatever is on your mind at the end of the day, whatever is still pending on your to-do list, anything that you're obsessing over, right? What you're going to do is you're going to go in your mind and you're going to imagine the best case scenario as if that were already resolved. I know that logically it is still a pending task, a pending issue, whatever it is. But in your mind, you're just going to close your eyes and you're just going to imagine it being resolved, being fixed as the best possible outcome. It's okay if you don't know what the outcome is. It's actually even better. You're just going to imagine yourself celebrating that it's fixed. That's all you got to do. And you can do that for everything. Blanket approach, celebrating that the issue magically is fixed. This is both showing your subconscious mind that whatever the thing is not a real threat, because you're showing your subconscious that this thing is fixed, and you're also training your subconscious mind to help you find the solution. Not only can your subconscious mind not tell the difference between what is real or what is something that you imagine in your mind, it also has this function called the reticular activating system, RAS, which is essentially a bias that looks for what you place your attention on. So if you're in your mind, you're placing your attention on the best possible outcome, your brain will go to work for you to find a solution that aligns with the best possible outcome. This is why you buy a new car and you start seeing that model of car everywhere now. Now that you have one, your brain is biased and it's seeing it everywhere. Your Toyota RAV4 was always there, but you weren't focused on it, so you didn't see it. Your brain filtered it out. So similarly, your brain is filtering out solutions if you aren't showing your brain the possibility of a miraculous, mind-blowing miracle solution popping out of thin air. The solution is there. If there's a problem, there's a solution. That is a mantra that I use all the time. If there's a problem, there's a solution. But if you're too focused on the negatives, the downsides, the worst case scenarios, you're not able to see the solution as readily, as quickly. Okay, so that's the first one. Another simple visualization that's super simple for you to do with your to-do list, you can just see yourself checking them all off. Like, I'll see the green emoji check mark symbol next to everything and done. Super quick and easy. These are just little tricks to show your brain that nothing is life or death, and they lower the volume on the importance level. And when that happens, your brain stops instructing your adrenal glands to produce so much cortisol. So when you start doing these things, you start catching yourself when you're over attaching importance to every little task in your life. You start reminding yourself that nothing is life or death. And then you start showing your subconscious that it's safe to relax by doing those little simple visualizations. What happens is your cortisol starts to balance naturally. So there's no longer an excess that your body needs to release in the middle of the night. And then you stop waking up at 3 a.m. This is the real long-term fix, not just for better sleep, which is amazing, but also for just living with genuine peace of mind every single day. And if you want some practical tips for what to do in the moment to help you fall back asleep fast when you wake up in the middle of the night, I've also got you covered. Watch this video right here next. It's the perfect companion to this one right now. So you're going to have both the quick techniques to calm your body in the moment to fall asleep and the long-term strategy to retrain your brain to stop waking you up in the first place.